The air in the lawyer's office was thick with dust and silence. I sat beside my two older sisters while my father, Logan Sr., stared straight ahead like a king waiting for a servant to speak. The lawyer, also named Logan, cleared his throat and began reading the will. Everything, our house, savings, the lake cabin, went to my sisters. When my name came up, Dad interrupted. Ari will not receive a share, he said. He's not responsible enough to manage what I've built. The words hit harder than I expected. My sisters shifted uncomfortably, but no one spoke up. I looked at Dad. You don't even trust me with a memory? He sighed. Trust is earned. The lawyer's pen scratched across paper, sealing my erasure. When it was over, I stood, trying not to let my voice shake. Then I'll earn it my way. Dad didn't look up. We'll see. Outside, sunlight glared off the glass doors. My reflection stared back, angry, small, but alive. That night, I packed everything I owned into 2 boxes and left the house I'd grown up in. My sisters tried to stop me, but I couldn't stay under the same roof. I rented a tiny room above a cafe. The hum of espresso machines replaced the quiet of my old bedroom. Every morning before work, I stared at the cracked ceiling and promised myself I'd prove him wrong. I took odd jobs, delivery driver by day, janitor by night, and worked on a small idea I'd had since college, a delivery tracking app that could help local shops manage orders better. It was messy code and sleepless nights, but it was mine. Sometimes I'd hear Dad's words echoing, not responsible. Each time, I typed faster. When the first version of the app actually worked, I smiled for the first time in months. Maybe responsibility didn't look the same to everyone. Weeks turned into months. The cafe owner let me test my app for their deliveries. When it cut mistakes in half, other stores started calling. I named it RouteMind. The first check I received was small, but holding it felt like holding proof that I wasn't worthless. I called home just to share the news. Dad answered. I'm busy. It's quick, I said. My app's working. I have paying clients now. That's nice, Ari. Don't forget to pay your taxes. He hung up. I stared at the phone. No congratulations. Just distance. That night, I wrote a note to myself on the wall above my desk. Build something even he can't ignore. Every click of the keyboard became a heartbeat. I was no longer running from his judgment. I was building past it. By winter, I had 3 part-time coders helping me and a dozen businesses using RouteMind. We met in a rented basement that smelled like paint thinner, but it was alive with ideas. I sent Dad an email, short, polite, inviting him to see what we were doing. No reply. When a local paper published an article about young entrepreneurs transforming small business logistics, I clipped it and mailed it to him anyway. Still silence. One evening, I caught a glimpse of our family photo on my phone, taken years ago. Dad's arm rested proudly around my sister's. My smile looked forced. I swore quietly, one day you'll see me, Dad. Then I turned back to my screen and kept working until dawn. Spring arrived with unexpected news. A city official who used RouteMind for food truck permits called. We love your system. Ever thought about licensing it citywide? I almost dropped the phone. That contract would change everything. We negotiated for weeks. When it was done, I walked out of the municipal building with a signed deal and a trembling grin. The next day, an investor visited our basement office. You're the kid from the article, he said. Let's talk expansion. I said yes before fear could answer for me. That night, I sat on the roof of the cafe, watching lights scatter across the city. I whispered, still irresponsible, and laughed. Then my phone buzzed, a number I hadn't seen in a year. The caller ID read, Lawyer Logan. I answered on the second ring. Ari, the lawyer said, your father asked me to prepare some updates to his estate. He's calling a family meeting next month. You may want to attend. I almost laughed. He already cut me out, remember? People change, or they think they do, he replied. For a week, I couldn't stop wondering what my father wanted. My sisters texted, Dad's reorganizing everything again. You should come. I said I'd think about it. In the meantime, our investor pushed me hard. We can't keep working from a basement, he said. Lease real offices, hire staff. It terrified me, but I signed the papers anyway. RouteMind moved into a bright second-floor space overlooking Main Street. I painted one wall orange to remind myself of courage. When I finally sent Dad the invitation to the ribbon cutting, he didn't respond, but the message didn't bounce back either. The new office changed everything. We had glass doors, a real sign, even free coffee. The city contract doubled our user base within months. I stopped being scared every time the phone rang. One night, I caught my reflection in the window. Older, steadier. Responsible, I whispered, testing the word. It didn't feel foreign anymore. Our investor introduced me to another client, a regional shipping firm. They wanted to integrate our app with their entire fleet. I barely slept for 2 weeks coding updates. Then a journalist called. We're doing a feature on young founders shaping logistics tech. I agreed, thinking it would be a small column. Instead, the article went national. The next morning, my inbox exploded. So did my voicemail. And among the messages sat one short text from an unknown number. Proud of you. Dad. I stared at the message until my screen dimmed. For days I didn't reply. What did I even say? The same man who'd erased me from his will suddenly felt proud? Eventually I typed, thanks. Hope you're well. He never answered. Still, it meant something. Maybe a door cracked open. Work swept me along again. We hired more developers, signed our first warehouse chain, and secured patents for our tracking algorithm. I barely noticed a year passing until December snow lined the sidewalks. The lawyer called again. Your father set another meeting. Says it's about inheritance and company shares. He asked that you be there. My pulse kicked. Why me? You'll have to hear it from him. I booked a ticket home. The same office. The same chairs. Different me. Dad sat at the end of the table, looking older, thinner, but his eyes were still sharp. My sisters whispered to each other. The lawyer greeted everyone politely and opened a folder. Mr. Logan wishes to adjust certain distributions, he began. Dad cleared his throat. Before we start, I want to say something. Ari, you surprised me. I heard about your company. Thank you, I said carefully. He nodded once. Still, I believe discipline should guide inheritance. So the estate remains as written. My stomach dropped. Of course. The lawyer hesitated. Actually, there's a complication you should both hear. Dad frowned. What complication? The lawyer slid new documents forward. A holding company recently acquired 31% of your manufacturing firm. The acquiring entity? RouteMind Systems, LLC, owned by Ari Logan. For a moment, no one breathed. Dad blinked. That's impossible. It's public record, the lawyer said gently. Your former investment partner sold his shares to RouteMind last quarter. Ari now holds controlling interest in 2 of your assets. Color drained from my father's face. I swallowed hard. I didn't know you still had stock in those firms. It was a normal acquisition. Our lawyers handled it. He stared at me, half angry, half lost. So now you own part of my company? Technically, yes, I said. But that wasn't the goal. Silence stretched until the lawyer coughed. Perhaps you'd both like a moment alone. Dad stood abruptly. Outside, we stepped into the corridor, where everything smelled of varnish and shock. For the first time, he looked unsure. You really built all that yourself? Yes, Dad. Every bit. Dad rubbed his forehead. I don't even know what to say. You don't have to, I answered. I never meant to take anything from you. He gave a short, stunned laugh. You bought half my life's work. I built mine, not bought yours. Sometimes paths just cross. We stood in silence until the lawyer peeked out. Gentlemen, should we continue? Dad waved him off. Give us 5 minutes. He looked at me again, eyes searching. So you're successful. I nodded. You did it without me. Because of you, I said quietly. You taught me discipline. I just used it differently. He exhaled slowly. I thought I was protecting you by being hard. I know. He extended a hand, tentative. I shook it. The cold between us started to melt. That evening, I stayed for dinner at the old house. It felt smaller, yet warmer somehow. My sisters hovered, watching Dad and me like we might explode again. Instead, we talked. He asked about RouteMind, about my staff, about what a logistics app even meant. When I explained, he leaned back, impressed despite himself. You really are running a company. Yeah, I said, and pay my taxes. He laughed, the first honest one I'd heard in years. Moments later, he grew serious. Ari, I was wrong. I confused responsibility with control. I thought you needed my path. It's okay. No, he said. It isn't. But maybe it can be. That night, he walked me to the door. Come by tomorrow. Let's talk about fixing things properly. The next day, we met again with Lawyer Logan. Dad surprised everyone. I'd like to reinstate Ari as equal heir, he said, and make him a partner in the family holdings. We'll merge responsibly. The lawyer smiled. I'll prepare the papers. My sisters nodded approval. One whispered, finally. Afterwards, Dad and I went for coffee. He stared into his cup. You know, I thought success meant people obeyed you. Turns out it's when they trust you. Trust takes time, I said. I'll earn it. Deal. He grinned. You always were stubborn. I raised an eyebrow. Guess who I got that from? Months passed quietly. Dad visited my office often, offering advice I didn't know I needed. You're people like you, he observed once. That's leadership, not luck. He attended our next product launch, shaking hands with my team. I'm Logan Sr., the irresponsible one's father, he joked, earning laughter. That night, he sent me an email. Proud, doesn't begin to cover it. I saved it. Together, we began planning a mentorship program for small-town kids who love tech but lack guidance. Dad handled finances. I handled ideas. It felt like building a bridge backward across years of silence. The following Christmas, we gathered again in the lawyer's office, this time by choice. Dad wanted to sign the updated documents in front of everyone. When he finished, he turned to me. I don't need a will to prove what's yours, but I'll keep one just in case. We laughed. The lawyer smiled. Shall I read the addendum? Dad shook his head. No need. The only thing that matters isn't on paper. He placed a small box in front of me. Inside was his old watch, the one he wore every day of my childhood. It's yours, he said, for keeping better time than I ever did. I fastened it on my wrist, and for the first time, it fit perfectly. After that Christmas, Dad and I began meeting every Friday. Sometimes we talked business, sometimes baseball, sometimes nothing at all. It felt new but natural. One afternoon, he said, "Come with me tomorrow. I want to show you something." We drove to the old factory he'd run before retiring. Dust covered the windows, but the frame was solid. I built this when I was 26, he said. Then I stopped trusting anyone else to build. I ran my hand along the brick wall. We could reopen it, use it for a mentoring program. His eyebrows lifted. You serious? Completely. A place where young people learn trades, coding, logistics, everything. He smiled. You really think big. I learned from the best. He nodded slowly. Then let's make it happen. Renovating the old factory took months. Dad handled permits and suppliers. I handled tech and design. We argued sometimes. Old habits die hard, but laughter always followed. The day we hung the new sign, the Logan Center for Innovation, Dad's eyes shone. You know, I used to think legacy was money. What is it now? I asked. People. The ones you help. The ones who outgrow you. He looked at me. That includes you, son. For once, I didn't look away. And you, Dad. Reporters came, cameras flashed. When someone asked who funded the project, he pointed at me. The responsible one. Hearing him say it out loud felt like sunlight breaking through old clouds. Summer came with good news. Route Mine won a National Innovation Award. Dad insisted on attending the ceremony. During my speech, I thanked my team first, then paused. I also thanked the man who taught me what responsibility really means. Dad stood, clapping harder than anyone. Afterwards, he hugged me in front of the cameras. You stole my spotlight, he whispered. You gave it to me, I said. That night, he told me he'd started writing something, letters he'd never sent, things he wanted me to know if anything happened. I laughed it off then, not realizing how important those letters would become later. A year later, Dad caught pneumonia. It hit fast and hard. I stayed by his hospital bed, reading him company updates and silly news just to keep his eyes open. Between coughing fits, he gripped my hand. Don't stop what we started, Ari. I won't. He managed a weak grin. You turned out more responsible than I ever dreamed. You helped, I whispered. He squeezed once. Guess we finally built something together. When he fell asleep, I sat watching the heart monitor blink steady green. For the first time, I wasn't angry at the past. I was grateful for every rough edge that had shaped us. He came home 2 weeks later, thinner but smiling. Still here, he said, patting my shoulder. We spent slow days walking the garden behind the factory. He liked to sit by the new plaque that read founded by Logan and Ari Logan. Responsibility in action. This, he said, is better than any will. I laughed. Don't talk like that. I'm serious. Money fades. Buildings stand if people keep caring. He looked tired but peaceful. Promise me you'll keep caring. I promise. He nodded once. Then I can rest easy, even while I'm awake. The following winter, Dad grew stronger again. He began showing up at the workshop, teasing my engineers and handing out donuts. Everyone adored him. One morning he said, "We should take this mentorship national." I smiled, already drafting the plan. He laughed. "I taught you too well." Together we wrote proposals, calling old contacts and mayors who owed him favors. Within months, the Logan Center had branches in 3 cities. At the grand opening, he leaned close. "Remember the lawyer who read you out of the will?" "Hard to forget." I asked him to draw something new. "Wait until you hear it." I rolled my eyes. "More surprises?" He winked. "Only good ones this time." 2 weeks later, we met Lawyer Logan again, in the same oak-paneled office where everything had once fallen apart. Dad handed him an envelope. "Read it, please." The lawyer adjusted his glasses. Clause 1. The estate shall pass jointly to my children, with executive rights to Ari Logan for his stewardship of the Logan Center. I blinked. Executive rights? Dad grinned. Means you're in charge. Dad, you didn't have to. I did, he said firmly. Responsibility should rest with the one who proved it. For once I couldn't speak. He patted my shoulder. I told you talk was cheap. You showed me action. That spring, he wrote me a letter on thick paper with crooked handwriting. Ari, it began, if you're reading this, it means I've stopped pretending I'll live forever. Thank you for teaching me that respect can go both ways. He ended with, you were never the irresponsible one. I just wasn't the patient one. I folded the letter carefully and kept it in my desk drawer. Every decision after that, every hire, every risk, I read that line again. It grounded me more than any contract could. The day the old factory's final expansion opened, Dad stood beside me cutting the ribbon. Reporters asked what made this partnership work. He said forgiveness. My son forgave me before I earned it. That gave me the courage to become better. Later we watched kids tour the new classrooms, eyes wide with possibility. He whispered, that look, they'll remember it the way you'll remember this moment. I nodded, fighting tears. He smiled faintly. That's legacy, Ari. A year later, when Dad passed quietly in his sleep, the lawyer called again. We gathered for the reading, this time not intention, but love. At the end, he handed me a small envelope marked final update. Inside was a note in Dad's handwriting. You once left my office with nothing but pride. Today you inherit everything that matters, my trust. Below it lay his pocket compass, worn smooth from decades of use. I closed my fist around it and whispered, I'll stay the course. Outside, the city lights shimmered like stars. The plaque at the Logan Center gleamed in the distance. He called me irresponsible once. Now his faith lived in every brick we'd built together. And for the first time, I felt fully home.